Hey there Pokemon Masters, Keeper Toby here and welcome back to another video. Pokemon, we all love them, collect them, train them, but what exactly are they? Are they animals? Well, the Pokedex does make reference to animals, mostly in the case of Pokemon eating them. This is going to be a tricky topic to work out. So today I'm joined by another Pokemon researcher, a buddy of mine, Mr. Buddy, and here are his thoughts.
Hey Toby, well, the Pokemon world isn't too dissimilar from our own. It has people, animals, and even locations that are all on Earth. What makes it so different are the many creation myths, regions, and of course, the Pokemon themselves. Looking at Pikachu's Pokédex information, we can see that it is the mouse Pokemon, but how would the people of the Pokemon world even know what mice are? It stands to reason that animals do exist within the Pokemon world, or at least they once did.
While the Pokedex does contain constant references to animals, it's interesting to note that the TV show and the cards stopped depicting them around about the Johto journey, so where did they go? Well, one interesting theory is that, as I mentioned earlier, Pokemon preyed on them.
In our world, there are 5 kingdoms of life: Animalia, plants, fungi, Monera, and protists. In the Pokemon world, all of these also exist. Animals and people show up covering our first kingdom, and forests are abundant in the Pokemon world, which covers the second kingdom of plants. Protists are things like algae, which exist often on Wartortle's shell. Things get more interesting when you look at Monera or fungi, which, while edible in many cases, are deadly in others. Let's take a look at Pokemon number 46, Paris.
Its Pokedex entry reads that Paris has large mushrooms growing on its back, parasitic mushrooms that drain the nutrients out of this grass bug type Pokemon. Not only that, but it gets so much worse when it evolves into Parasect, as its Pokedex entry reads, a host-parasite pair. The parasite seems to have completely taken over. This is just like and inspired by cordyceps fungi in our world, which get inside the heads of insects and the spores begin to grow into larger fungi, which then explode with more spores, repeating the cycle. It's interesting to note, however, that Parasect's mushroom doesn't actually quite appear to be a fungus, but rather part of the Pokemon.
Next up, we can look at the Monera Kingdom, which also exists in the Pokemon world. Pokemon like this Ampharos get sick with colds, and both Surskit and Relicanth feed off of bacteria. One notable virus is Pokerus, which can infect every single Pokemon, regardless of the diversity of Pokemon on the planet. This is also a special kind of virus, given the fact that most viruses only ever infect a selection of animals in our world. Pokerus' relationship with Pokemon resembles mutualistic symbiosis, in which a creature acts as a home for a virus, and in return the virus will often protect the host from other viruses or bacteria, such as the ones living in the mucus inside of our nose. Boogie Pokemon, anyone?
So now it's time to do some history of both our and the Pokemon world. Our planet, Earth, has been around for 4.5 billion years. The oldest recorded Pokemon is Rayquaza, who's been around for 1 billion years. Anatomically, modern humans have been around for 200,000 years, which matches up pretty nicely with the Pokemon world. There's a lot of similarities between our world, and maybe they are one and the same. Of course, the obvious problem is that in our world there is nothing quite like a Pokemon. But for this obvious problem, perhaps there's an obvious solution.
Simply put, in the Pokemon world, there are more than 5 kingdoms of life, potentially more than 6. Pokemon themselves seem to have their own viruses, fungi, plants, and animals, and they even have other things like sentient objects. Could it be possible that existing on the planet with the traditional kingdoms of life we are familiar with, exist more similar kingdoms all under the label of Pokemon? The answer is findable in our own ecosystem, and it's known as convergent evolution. Convergent evolution is the process whereby organisms not closely related independently evolve similar traits as a result of having to adapt to similar environments or ecological niches. For example, sharks and dolphins, while they both seem like they would be closely related, are actually not. One is a fish and one is a mammal.
With convergent evolution, we can assume all of the Pokemon lore is true and that it fits in with our own world. Once upon a time, Arceus existed, he created all forms of life, and 3.5 billion years ago, which is when life showed up on our planet, it began to evolve. Whereas in our world, all 5 kingdoms of life used to be one organism once upon a time. In the Pokemon world, that may have happened, but other kingdoms of life may have evolved separately, convergently. And then, of course, more recently, Pokemon and people and animals begin to intermingle. People who already know what mice are see a Pikachu and they go, that looks like a mouse, we'll call it the mouse Pokemon. And of course, when the Pokemon meet the actual mice, they think, dinner time.
Well, here's some food for thought. What if that means the Pokemon world now is just an altered version of the world we live in, and that regions aren't just based off America or France, but they actually are America or France?
Yeah, that'd be cool. And you know what I'd love to see? A Pokemon version of the UK. That would be exciting.
Well, why don't we go over to my channel and talk about what locations and even Pokemon the UK might have if it was ever to be a Pokemon region.
Yeah, sounds good. And we'll see you over there.
This is Ash Ketchum. You just watched a video by Keeper Toby. That makes you a Pokemon Master.